Hey, everybody. I hope you're all having a really great day. So, today we are talking about the secret ingredient. And no, it's not peanut butter and chocolate. Although, for those of you that have followed me for a while, you might have thought that's what I was going to say. And it's also not chocolate covered almonds. So, today I want to talk about the secret ingredient that makes everything better. Whether it be your Facebook Lives, your marketing, your customer conversations, your coaching, spending time with your kids, heck, even cleaning the house, which again, y'all know I don't like to do. But there's one thing that if you add it, it will change everything. And it's not profound and it's not even new, and I didn't discover it. And that is joy. The secret ingredient to everything is joy. I know you might be like, Angela, really? That's what we waited all week for. And I understand, because when I first heard it, I rolled my eyes and I thought, really, what can joy really add to anything? And how can I even begin to feel joy when I am stressed out, overwhelmed, overworked, overtouched, overstimulated, over everything? And that's the thing, is that joy changes everything. Okay? Because when you come from a place of joy, or when you take time to actively add joy to your life or do things that bring you joy, it changes your whole perspective on life. And it's also contagious. It is the kind of thing that it's like a smile or a yawn or, anything else, things we won't mention, that are highly contagious. Joy is contagious. And it's great because it's the kind of thing that when you share it, you actually reap more of a benefit than the person that you're sharing with. So joy is something that I have actively been working on putting more of into my life for some time now. A lot of decisions I make now are based on, does it bring me joy? And not in the like Marie Kondo throwing stuff out kind of way. Because first and foremost, a lot of us don't even know what joy feels like, right? When I first started trying to focus on joy, and I was doing different meditations, and I was, doing these visualizations, I was doing all these things, sitting there with my eyes closed, being like, come on, joy. And the first thing they asked me is, remember a time when you truly felt happy and when you felt true joy. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't think of anything. And I was like, shit, I'm broken. I have never felt joy. I have never been truly happy. But that's because our brains have a negativity bias, and we are more likely to remember bad and negative things than we are to remember good and positive things, because negative things are things that we remember for survival purposes, because let's remember, it's the reptilian brain. It is prehistoric. It thinks much like it works with our ego. It needs to keep us safe. So we are more likely to remember the things that are negative. That being said, we have all experienced moments of joy. And the funny part is, a lot of our moments of joy follow periods of intense either pain or suffering or pressure or stress. Really funny, right? So, okay, you might not believe me, but I will give you an example. I will give you a very, very relevant example for all of us here, because if we're mompreneurs, we are moms. And for a lot of us, not all, that means that we have experienced carrying and birthing a child, whether vaginally or by cesarean, both of which carry with them their own pain. Not only that, but even carrying a child comes with its own potential pains, discomforts, stresses, fears, right? And yet I remember when I gave birth to my twins and they were, 6 weeks early, and halfway through, first twin was out, and I looked at the nurse beside me and I was like, I can't do that again. And she was like, you have to. That was probably one of the most painful, hard, difficult experience in my life. And yet the minute it was over, I felt the most sublime joy I have ever felt. It was like one of the few times I can remember crying tears of joy. And so we all have experienced joy, and we've all experienced happiness. But the funny thing about happiness is pursuing happiness is the fastest way to not have it, right? If you set out into the day to pursue happiness, somehow you miss it because you're so caught up in trying to chase happiness that you're stressed. But if you just add a little bit of joy into your life, you'll find as a result, you have more happiness. So in the Book of Joy, written by the Dalai Lama or His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu, they talk a lot about joy and what causes it. And one of the biggest ways to bring about joy is to consider others, right? So consider, like, put yourself in someone else's shoes, sort of. But if you are feeling the worst thing sorry, I'm just going to try to organize these thoughts here. So a lot of times, one of the biggest things that brings us pain is that we focus on ourselves as individuals, and we isolate ourselves alone with our stresses and alone with our concerns and our fears. And we think that we're the only one that feels this way. And in that isolation, we compound our feelings of pain and fear and anger and frustration by telling ourselves that we're the only one going through this. We are alone. Because not only are we struggling, but we are struggling alone. And so if we can take a minute and look outside of ourselves and think for a moment that on a planet of over 7 billion people, someone probably feels the same way we do right now, if not worse. And that's not to say that we aren't entitled to our feelings, or that we shouldn't feel bad because other people feel worse. It's to say that if we can recognize that there are other people feeling like us, and we can feel compassion for what they're going through, we feel less alone, and then we feel less stressed, and then we feel less pain, and then we start to feel better. So the other thing is laughter, right? Finding humor in things. Oh my gosh. So my husband finds humor in everything. And he reminds me on the daily that he's a really funny guy. And I'm like, clearly you're talking about some other husband. But he is actually quite funny, and he never watches my YouTubes or my Facebook Live. So I know he will never hear me say that. And Mom, if you tell Mike I said he was funny, we're going to have words. So he is actually quite funny, and he makes me laugh at things. Sometimes I'm laughing because I am rolling my eyes at what just came out of his mouth, or sometimes I'm laughing because it is actually really funny. But the thing is that he makes me laugh when I feel like I'm dying inside. And in that moment, I feel better, right? And enough about, my funny husband and how I feel better. But how can we add joy to the things we do? First and foremost, figure out what brings you joy, right? Make a list of things that you enjoy. And if you can't think of anything that you enjoy or that you find fun, make a list of things you're curious about, okay? Think back to when you were a kid. What did you like to do? Or what do you remember always getting in trouble for? That's a good one, right? Because A, we remember bad things, so we remember getting in trouble. But B, we can draw from what we always got in trouble for and say, what was I always doing? Oh, maybe I was always talking. So maybe I really like to connect and talk to other people. So maybe I need to be, starting a mastermind or starting a group or joining a group somewhere where I can connect and talk to people. Maybe talking to people will bring me joy. Interesting. For me, I fidget too much, right? I always was the kid that got in trouble for shaking the table at dinner. Or for not being able to sit still. I mean, to this day, my husband will be like, Angela, you're rocking the whole car, because I'm driving and at stoplights, I get bored. And so my leg rocks back and forth, and the whole car kind of goes. But what do I enjoy doing? I enjoy dancing. I enjoy running. I enjoy jumping around like a crazy fool. I enjoy, movement. It brings me joy. So when I'm having a tough moment, putting on a really good, super jazzy song and dancing around helps lift my mood. So the first thing you want to do is figure out things that bring you joy, or figure out things that you want to try that you think you might enjoy, right? I've fallen in love with painting. Never even knew I liked it. But the secret was I had to find a style of painting I could enjoy. I cannot try to paint pictures of things. It just has to be random paint on a canvas with different mediums that I'm using to get it there, throwing in some sparkles, maybe some gems, and calling it art, or calling it my creation. So yeah, figure out what you enjoy doing, what you like. And even if it's weird, even if you're like, I really like cleaning, it's not for everyone, but if you enjoy it, do it. And then once you've figured out a few things that bring you joy, schedule it into your day. And it doesn't have to be for a lot, right? Even I've talked about the power of 15 focused minutes. Even if at first you can only find 5, 10, or 15 minutes to do something that brings you joy. And now here's the catch, though, is it has to be selfish. You can't do the playing with my kids brings me joy and then play with your kids and try to kill two birds with one stone, because that is not joy just for you. It has to be selfish joy. It has to be just for you. It can't be a game that involves other people. It has to be something you can do that brings you joy. Okay? And then once you've added that to your day every day, start to pay attention to how you feel about it. Right? When you know that it's coming, or you're going to get to spend 15, 20 minutes doing that thing, how do you feel? And when you find that you notice you're looking forward to it, then you're ready to move on to the next step, which is to recognize what joy feels like. When you're doing it, how do you feel? Right? How does your body feel? Where do you feel joy? When I was doing the 40 years of Zen retreat, we had to do a gratitude meditation. And one of the things was to get out of your head and into your heart. So not what are you grateful for that you think you're grateful for, but what does gratitude feel like? Okay. So you want to get from your head to your heart, and you want to know, what does joy feel like? Even if joy is like a tingling between the backs of your shoulders, or, your feet feel funny. I don't know. You do you, man. But figure out what joy feels like, because then you can work to recreate that feeling in other activities, right? So if you don't like something, say, how can I enjoy this? Right? So for me, as we all know, I don't like cleaning. So I turn on music when I'm cleaning, and I dance with my broom, and I sing like I am Tom Cruise in Risky Business. And I live with too many people and too many dogs and stuff, so I don't do it in my underwear, but I would love to. But I find a way to enjoy it, right? And I know I'm enjoying it when I can feel that feeling, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm having fun. This is pretty good. So by adding more joy, you change the way you see the world. I know that feels like a really big leap, right? How does adding more joy to my life change the way I see the world? Well, because you tell your brain how the world is. And when you feel bad most of the time, the world is bad. But when you feel joy most of the time, your brain starts to believe that the world is good. And then you see more good things. And you see things like opportunities. And you see things like, people doing good deeds. And you see less of the bad and you see more of the good, and you maybe stop watching the news every morning, or you stop reading msn.com every morning, and you stop hearing about all the horrible things, and you start to see the good things, and it gives you hope. And when you have hope, you start to change things. And joy also comes across, like I said, it's contagious. So when you interact with people, whether they be clients or customers or employees or somebody you're paying a bill to or anything, the way you interact with them changes because you have more joy. And that affects them as well. Think of a bill collector, someone that gets yelled at all the time. When they get to deal with somebody that is living in a place of joy, it probably feels like a breath of fresh air to their day. My goal when I left 40 years of Zen was I wanted to be the type of person that says good morning to strangers. Not because I wanted to be recognized for saying good morning. I wanted to be the type of person that woke up and felt so much joy. They said good morning to people because it was a good morning and they wanted to share that with everyone. Right? And so that's why I focus on joy. So I would love to hear what brings you joy. And I would love to hear if and how you are trying to add more joy to your life. I add more joy to my life by dyeing my hair pink, right? Brings me joy. Thank you for joining me on this lovely afternoon. I'd love to hear from all of you, so please leave a comment, keep in touch. And as always, remember that the woman you see when you look in the mirror is exactly what a successful entrepreneur looks like. Be well, take care. So much love.